calling you ahead of time.
I started to record
That's fine. That's fine. Good.
But I think, and I will let him introduce himself and tell the story. But I wanted to ask you, first of all, to keep an open mind.
Yes.
I know that you have some reservations about DAOs and stuff, but I think that Gal comes with actually not theoretical idea and stories about DAOs, but actual practical experience that led him to realize that maybe that DAO is the solution. And then he realized that there is Ethereum and blockchain and what you guys invented and Vitalik, and merged these two stories together. And I think actually for us, and I think I told you and Scott that that's a very interesting opportunity to engage also people like Merkel into the declaration one way or another, and leverage Gal's experience and story and what he's doing to create a sandbox or a practical environment, actual environment that can implement all these ideas. And I would be very happy if this can be incorporated into our work. And without further ado, I will let Gal introduce himself and tell you the story, and we'll see how afterwards what are going to be the next steps. Okay,
fine. First, I'll say thanks for sending that article about DAOs just earlier today. I don't know if you recognize the name of the guy who wrote it, but he's a heavyweight in the blockchain world, and in fact my most recent scientific co-author. In fact, if you
wow, the guy from A16Z.
Well, no, the guy who wrote that article, he's not. I'm Andreessen Horowitz might have him as an advisor or something, but he's look him up. I'll send you some links about him.
Tarun Chitra.
Tarun Chitra, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, Gal, I should stop interrupting and let you talk. So please, please do.
First of all, thank you for your time. Nir told me just the highlights of your history, and this is a great opportunity for me to tell you what my conclusion for my journey in the last 5 years, and I will try to do it 5 years in 5 minutes. But I think 5 minutes wouldn't be enough. But you stop me when you start boring yourself. Okay.
I'm sure.
Okay. So I'm coming from the law field. I'm a lawyer, and my field was employment law, and specific on the employment law, class actions at the employment area, employee-employee relationship, and around collateral agreements. And this was a new thing in Israel.
What? Just a minute. What do you mean? What are collateral agreements?
It's like when a labor union is having agreement with the employer. Like It's not like, you see, like it's agreement that is signed between the representative of the employees and the employer.
Okay, I guess U.S. law probably doesn't use the word collateral agreement for that kind of agreement. I think they just call it the work contract or something like that.
As I think that maybe, but this is to distinct it from regular one-to-one agreements. So this is the background, and what I saw with the class action, which is another form of representing a crowd. You can represent a crowd by a labor law, or by class action. And class action was new here, and this point of view led me to the conclusion that that is not new. It's the principal agent problem, that the labor union is not working in all points, is not maximizing the benefits for its crowd, and it's maximizing its own operational benefits on expense of the employees, on expense of the crowds. So this was just a hint, was just a thought. And then I made a research, and I checked over 4,500 verdicts of the labor law court in Israel during 5 years. And I took out the empirical facts, like the number of the pages, the attorney fees, and etc. How long it takes, and how much of the lawsuit was accepted, like all of it, a middle, and so on. But the interesting thing was that the most interesting data was about the lawyers' fees that are representing how much the judge was in favor of this side, and it shows very precisely, very
distinctly
obvious, yes, very obvious that the labor law courts in Israel give benefits to the employers and not give them to the employees. The side of the employees was getting much less attention, and this was shown in the data, and I was very upset because I'm the side of the good ones. So
you're working for the good guys.
yes, so it led me to check if there's another system that works, and I was going to the desert to find out if there's another solution to do dispute resolution. And I was reading about online dispute resolution and all these things, and I made a process of design thinking or legal design. I thought, what is the thing that is minimum process that can bring the legal process into the minimum things that bring the legal process into resolution. And to make a long story short, I realized that if we have a fight, if we have a dispute, you and me, and we will discuss it in short sentences of yes, no questions, we will get to understand at the most efficient way what we are fighting about, and then we will prepare it for resolution if we don't get agree upon the things, and we still have things that we don't agree upon, because we can give it to a judge or to an arbitrator, and he, when he sees on his specialty material a short question of yes, no, he can say yes or no in a few seconds. And actually, we checked it. I checked it. We have an early version of the system, and we checked how much it takes to 100 people to respond to yes, no questions, to 10 yes, no questions test in their specialty field, in their expertise field. So we learned that the average time was 12 seconds to expert to see if a short sentence in his expertise is false or true. And if we take a very complicated dispute and we break it into yes, no question, we usually be left with 1 or 2. But I want to be large and let you 10 yes, no question on dispute. So multiply 12 seconds or 15 seconds or even half a minute. Multiply it in 10, and you will get the time to have a resolution in very large disputes. Of course, we can give it to 10 specialists, because all they have to do is to spend 2 minutes on it. So we can pay for it very easily. And with this conclusion, I went to the Israeli Justice Court and I told them, let's try it because I have a system that can try it. And they say to me, okay. And I went all the stages until the manager of the courts, the administrative manager of the courts, and he said, okay, I like it, I will go to the judges. He went to the judges and went back to me and said they don't like it, they don't want it. They want, a standard procedure, or you know, like they want to do it right. Okay, I told them you don't have to do it right, but you don't have to plan it because I have the tool that you can test it and improve it on the fly. They didn't want to do it. So I was going on, and then I had how do you say the galut? Revelation?
Epiphany.
I went to a meeting in Jerusalem with Community Center of Dispute Resolution. And I told them, look, I have here a dispute resolution between two people, between three people, and you can make it between several people. The other side of it that you can, if you do this conversation between many people, you can get the collective will and they will tell you what they want, like, because everybody gets the chance to suggest and everybody gets the chance to vote. And they told me, look, for us, it's the same. I told them, what do you mean? They told me, for us, the ODR, the online dispute resolution, and the collective will is the same because we have disputes in buildings, in streets, in neighborhoods that are combined religious and conservative and chilonim, how do you say it? And we have in Haifa, in Jerusalem, neighborhoods of Arabs and Jews. So, and I understood that considering the psychological effects of the ODR language, of the binary language system, the binary model system, I understood that if I talk with myself this way, I can resolve my own dilemmas. If I talk with you this way, we can have a dispute resolution. And if we put it between the all three of us, so we get our collective will. But that was a general notion, and I've decided to test it. I'm just opening brackets and just to tell you that for me, one of the interesting things dealing with this model is that this model of thinking, this structural thinking, changed my life and my family's life because it changed the point of view on things.
So just how long ago was this revelatory moment at this meeting of what was it, arbitrators in Jerusalem?
Okay, so the time was 2015.
Roughly.
No, it's okay. 2015 was the start of it. I was until 2018, 2019 working with it. In the start of 2020, I was ready with the whole concept and I wrote an article on it. And this is when I, just a little, few months earlier, I was understanding the whole concept of it. So you can point it on the start of 2020. And then I was starting to look up other concepts of this thing. I didn't know anything about DAOs. I didn't know anything about NFTs or blockchain. I didn't came from this, but I just hinted on my article that from my point of view, it is more obvious for the legal system to be on the blockchain field than on the AI field regarding all my things. Maybe you can use notions from the AI field, but at the binary thinking, the AI and the algorithms that work for the capitalist entities and centralized entities. This is one thing, and the decentralized methods were the other. So this one showed me that if you are looking on things that are not black and white, and I tell you this. One of the notions that I have that they told me all the time, our world is not black and white. It's not yes and no. So I told them, you're right, but you're probably not looking at it at the right resolution. Because if you look at it at the right resolution, it is black and white. And if you look at any gray at the right resolution, it is black and white. And the other way around is that the computer is talking at black and white language. And we have great achievements when the basic thinking is just black and white. It's just 0 and 1. So what I thought is when you have a disparate resolution, you don't have to drill down to the 0 and 1. You can stop somewhere in the middle, but I was trying it in real mediation that I do, because I'm a mediator also. I'm a lawyer, an economist, and mediator, and
so you don't have to convince someone like me with a mathematical training and a theoretical good basis in theoretical computer science about how much you can do just with bits.
Okay.
I'll just throw that out. But if you can, if you could handle bits with, of a couple bits plus a couple of simple operations, and you can do anything the mind can do.
Yes. So this is, for me, it was new. For me, this notion was, I know computers and I've designed a few systems in my life. I am connected to the, but I'm not writing code and I'm not engineering software, but I was thinking about it. And this, at this point, what was going, that I read an article by Professor Ona Rabinovich-Eini. I don't know if you know the name. She is the dean of the Haifa University. She is a world specialist at ODR, and she works along with Eitan Katz and Colin Rule. Ona Rabinovich-Eini. She is the daughter of Professor Rabinovich, that was responsible on the negotiations between Israelis and the Palestinians in some areas of the 90s and the early I think late 90s. So she wrote an article about that the DAOs needs an ODR system in order to protect themselves from failures and attacks. This was, I think, I realized it a year after she wrote it, and it was, I think, written in 2019. So I thought, okay, and this was strengthening my thought. And then in August this year, I was reading Vitalik Buterin article about Digov, about that if you want to evolve DAOs, you must have decentralized governance system between among near it or outside it, to have the opportunity to deal with attacks and failures. Because as they said, and I think already a DAO in the first days or when you're still young, it doesn't have the, it is not stable and is not, you can easily make coalitions and to attack it. So with that notion that every DAO needs governance or needs ODR, which is, I think it's the same, because it's separate system that see that it runs okay. And what I thought then, that if it will be like that, with another addition that we have to do a decent interface that is attractive to the users, this can be a platform for making decisions in a community. And I understand all the obstacles. I read about it a lot, about delegation of votes and coalitions, and I think this is something that are obstacles that must be addressed and fixed. But the main idea that you can, and I'm not talking about the money and I'm not talking about the wallets, but if you give the community two-ways survey system, which does not exist. If you search for the internet, in the internet for this kind of communication, you will not have a system that designated for two-ways survey, because the people who make the survey don't want the people that answer to mess with the questions. Because in my profession, the main thing is the question and not the answer. If you know the question, so the answer is not a problem. And this you can overcome by letting everybody ask and just refining the question so that the right one will go up and create the norm of this community. And the next step, I was drilling down to the idea, and I thought, and this was, I thought that I have to test it. And I went I just want to say before, it worked with me and my family. It's not I will tell you, it's not a simple family, because I was married 2 times. I have 2 kids for my first, 3 kids for my second, and my current wife have 2 kids on their own. So in Kiddush, we have 9 people around the table. And we all live very peacefully with each other. And I must tell you, none of my wife is easy to handle. The first one is a doctor for psychology, and we are cooperating. We were cooperating in bringing this idea to finalize. And the second one is even more hard. But I think I saw change at my kids thinking. I just give you the highlight. I told them, look, this is a story nice to hear. We were driving to Eilat, and the car was seven seats car, and it was full, and behind the driver's seat was a big noise. I told them, okay, don't fight now. I have an application that can make peace. So they told me, no, father, no application. We will be okay. We will not fight. Just don't put us to use the application. And this is a lesson, because most of the time, the first question of the model is, do you want to resolve and people say, yes, I want, but they don't do the efforts to resolve it. They think that the efforts to resolve are too much. So if you get them to do it, they will resolve it. They just don't want to get them. And I saw it on the courts. You conduct a 3 years hearing, 3 years with witnesses and everything, and it comes to the 1 or 2 questions that could be answered 3 years before. So at my family it works. So I thought I have to test it on the real world, and I have very old love. I was a handball player when I was young. And handball in Israel and Europe, I think it's not like the handball in the United States. It's a play like soccer, but with a hand. And it's very common in Europe. It's considered second or three in Europe. So I went with the Israeli national youth team to 2 months of training camp. This is a very special project. And I volunteered to manage it. And I was managing 15, 18 years old players. They were 15 in a number, 18 years old players during 2 months in a very intensive training camp. They had very rough schedule, and they had 2 practices in a day, and they didn't knew each other at the beginning. And I was asking myself two questions. Will they be, how do you say it, will they accept the method, and will it resolve the problems we will and the challenges that we will see? And the second thing is really the collective will. Is it real existing, and is it real effective? So what I did is to count the discipline, how to say, discipline violations, okay? The discipline violations. And I didn't do any punishments and any sanctions which they usually suffered when they do something wrong. I didn't do anything. And in 2 or 3 days, this was the Bible. They were running in the stairs to get on time. I checked if they're coming on time, if they're putting masks, if they bring their equipment, they should, and if they, was another thing, I think, if they use cell phones on their meals. So, and I was writing the violations. And in 2 days, this list of violations became to be the Bible of what they do, because they were running in the stairs to get on time, and I didn't do anything. I just counted the violations, and they were very motivated to do things well. But still, I didn't prepare it, but I had a chart of the weekly violations, and this was for 3 or 4 weeks. Then on the last week, I told them, look, last week you are going to be on your own. Every day you will pick a guy, a leader, which will assist you to do your thing. He will be the governance, and you will do everything on yourself. And your task is to get less violations that comparing the period that I was conducting. And to make a long story short, it succeeded against all odds, because I had an assistant that were in previous projects like this. This was my first one. And when we get to the point, he told me it will never work. 3 days before the day of the announcement, and after day, he told me it won't last 1 day. And they were conducting by themselves, and they were doing less violations that I was writing down, and they were very dedicated to the process. And just the last thing was that the last day, we had a problem because the players were playing football, and 2 of the players were fighting on the court, and all of the team was divided to 2 camps, and they were very hot on it. They were very into it. And my assistant came to me and told me, I wasn't there. He told me the worst happened. They were fighting, and I saw in his eyes that he telling me, look, all this nice thing you did all this last week and the project, look, this is the outcome. I told him, don't worry, until the evening it will be fixed. And then it was in the morning, and before lunch, I took them to conversation. I took the two guys, I said, now you two, you made a very good performance to all of the guys. You have until 4 o'clock to fix it yourself by all the means we learned until now. And if not, you're coming to me and we will fix it. And it was 1 o'clock lunch, and 4 o'clock they should come to me, and 3 o'clock I got a picture of the two players in one bed hugging each other. And in this evening, when I announced the winning of this challenge, one of the guys stood up and he said like this. Everyone told what he learned from this project, and he told like this. When Orel, it was the other guy that was fighting, came into my room, I knew exactly what I had to do. I said nothing and I hugged him. And I knew that this is what this process brought, because this is never happening in sporting, never. And I was warned, because before I went there, I was warned that, look, you will have problems and they will fight, it will always happen, and there's nothing to do. And just finishing to get 1 week earlier, or the same evening, the player that won the game was the one that was use the violations as tokens. Why I tell them? Because he said at his day, I am changing the rules. They could change the rule by himself in voting. And this is how I knew that my voting system could help if it would be finalized. See, it is okay, but it is not finalized. It has things we have to fix, but I needed it. This is one thing. And the second thing, that he won because he told the team, today, when I am the leader, the violations, we are dividing into pairs, and the violations are written on the other guy, not on you, not the one who made it, but the other guy, the guy. And he was getting very low violations that day, and he won the challenge. So I went back, and after 2 days, I realized that I found the collective will, and I believe that with certain improvement to the thinking about DAOs today, we can make it. And then I was promoting now. I'm promoting now a labor union, which will conduct on DAO. And this is why I'm here, because I'm looking for partners to come and see for the partners if it works, and for me how it works. So this is what brings me here. And Nir told me about the declaration, and I was thrilled about it, and I really wanted to be involved. So I'm sorry for the time. This is the story. Now you know me.
Okay. When was the handball team story?
It was I got back 1 month ago. At the end of November. Yes.
So this is just very recent.
Yes.
Okay. I just Googled the sport name. I didn't know anything about the sport. I mean, when you say handball, I only think of two players against each other, or maybe two
one against the wall, right? Huh? In the United States, it's one against the wall.
Right. Or two players and they take completely different sport.
Maybe we can tell the story about, instead of handball, dodgeball, and then leverage the Dogecoin for the story.
ODPOM, next time, maybe.
But I think first of all, thank you, Gal, for telling all the story. I think, Stuart, from our perspective, and the declaration, and the DAO portion within the declaration, I think from all the DAOs that I'm familiar with, all of them reside on the blockchain, crypto DAOs, and the collective investments in NFTs and others. And I think this is the only opportunity, as far as I know, that we can leverage DAOs for a real world environment. He didn't elaborate more about the current ventures that he's running, but he is in contact with a significant union organization in Israel. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gal.
Yes, of course.
That the idea over there is to turn the centralized, I think, voting system for the leader and making sure that the leader recognizes the collective will and act upon it into a DAO system that actually has better chances of revealing the collective will and implement it for the benefit of its members. And I think that for someone like Merkel or others that are interested in DAOs, not only in the digital world, but in the physical, traditional real world, I think it's an opportunity to collaborate both ways. First of all, to be involved in something that kind of a sandbox that we can learn to implement it afterwards in much larger environments. And obviously to let us, Gal, and his venture enjoy from the exposure and the credibility of people like yourself and Scott and others that are in the space. And maybe, this is one of the killer app on the blockchain that we can today implement on the physical real world. That's, I think, this is what I had in mind, that I thought maybe we can combine, collaborate all of us into a unified goal eventually. Let Gal be involved in the declaration, let the declaration people be involved in this venture, and and create 1 + 1 = 5 eventually for everybody.
Let me express some skepticism about how this could work. There's a large difference between handling a party of 15 people and, several thousand, let alone several million, let alone, billion, depending on how grandiose your
Wait, Stuart, I lost your first sentence. I'm sorry, I had some internet problems. Can you repeat?
Yes, I said there. So let me express some skepticism, or skepticism, and some questions. It occurs to me immediately that there's a large difference between handling disputes among a group of 15 people compared to a much larger group, let alone, 15 versus even 100, compared to 1,000, or, if you're properly, as I assume, you have high hopes for what your system might be able to do, you hope to scale to millions or even more. Is that not right?
Yes.
Okay. The one thing that you may not have read too much about is that voting on, especially on real world, important issues, is in fact something best done by completely non-digital means. That is paper voting.
I didn't understand.
It's better to do it with papers.
Ken, that's it.
Why? Why?
Why?
You know,
Why?
you know the
Oh, did you
reason?
ask? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I asked, yes.
Because computers are not secure. Simple, as simple as that.
Can I answer this point?
Yes. Oh, and by the way, that is separate from that might not be a criticism of your suggested means of resolving disputes in the real world, by the way. But I'm not sure about the combination with you know, the algorithmic blockchain world.
I have, yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I will give you another example of the real world. I understand exactly what you're saying, and this is like, you know, proof of concept of the feelings of the human beings, how they combine with the principles of the work of the system. So this is what I have proved from in my point of view. But today, I had a Zoom meeting with 170 people that are the labor union that's supposed to be the basic of this whole operation. And we, the common will was absent there. And they didn't mind any security problems for now, because when you start, of course, when you're doing thousands and millions and 10,000, you need security, but this is something to work on at the next stage. Why? Because now small communities need this too. And we can learn from small communities how to behave in big communities.
Oh,
and
no, absolutely, absolutely.
And I wanted to tell you another thing about the concept that I have for the next stage, but today, there were extreme voices and shouting voices that was calling one way, in one way. And the silent majority was, they needed a tool which will tell all the shouting that we think otherwise. And we didn't have it. So we had to go, okay, now we will make a survey. We will send you Google form. We will send you this. And if you're not thinking from the money side, from the beginning, just for the interest side, so this is a tool that they needed today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. And what I thought is, when you scale it to a larger number, of course you need security. I don't think otherwise. But the ability to create a stable log that cannot be compromised of the norm by short sentences of yes, no, that have consensus, can be the law itself. So what I thought is, if you take now the Israeli law, all the book, and you divide it, you break it into yes, no questions. And you say to the people, look, this is the ground base you have. Now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we know how to vote, we don't know how to vote now, but now vote. You are dealing with this, you can vote on this. You have this domain, you can vote on this, and you can change the law. And this is one method that I thought about. The second method, that imagine thousands of people landing on an island and want to have self-governance. So we tell them, you have computers, okay, you bring from the airplane that crashed, you save the computers, okay. And now just tell the system what you want for yourself to get, and then what you want to give. And if you do it on a binary language, short sentence of yes, no questions, and very specific ones. I know that the human language is not like that, and you will have to do some adjustment to make it like that. So we will get the map of the interests of all these people.
So I'd like to cut you short there and just say I'd be interested in seeing a few examples of real world disputes, how they were boiled down to a short sequence of binary questions as you illustrate, because I mean, as you've actually done, because I'd like to see a couple of examples of real world cases.
You want me to give you one example now?
If you got one right at hand,
of course,
but I'd also like to see it, see more than one example actually written down.
Of course, but of course, there's no problem. I have to translate it, but I will give you the principle and you will understand how it goes.
Yeah.
I come to you and tell you, you have to give me 10,000 shekels, $10,000. And you say, no, I don't need to give you anything. So we have dispute, right? So then I ask you, why don't you give me the money? So I don't owe you anything. We have no contract. So I tell you, okay, we have no contract, but when I worked for you, I'm taking example from my, we've been working together, and you paid everything, but you didn't pay me vacation as I need to get. And you say, no, I did give you vacation. So we have another problem. I said, why you say that you don't give me vacation like this? So he said, okay, look, I am working halftime, and you paid me, and the employer said, no, you are working 40% of the time. And then we know that our dispute is not about $10,000, it's about the working hours. And this is just example of, and this goes all along the disputes that are going into the court, because I know how lawyers think. And they say, okay, I will tell my story. I don't mind twisting the edges a little bit to make it compatible to my version, and then I go to the judge and I will wait for him to say what he says. And when I put this burden on the system, this is unbearable. We need, in the States that getting into the court, it's only for the rich, and even in Israel we have this thing that strong entities are taking the other side to court round because they know he could not afford it. So this is something that usually is not getting into the court. They are not handing the court the right questions. And in Israel, in the beginning of 2020, the law has been changed, and now each side are forced to go to mediation and get back to the court with a list of what they agree and what they don't agree. But I had a conversation with the Israeli dispute resolution doctor in the Bar Ilan University today, and he told me that what he hears from the courts, and I know it, that the sides are undermining this process and they don't do it very seriously, and the judges are not complying it very good. So the change is not done yet. But if you think of dispute that is articulated in yes, no short questions, so you will see that it is much more ready for resolution, and it's much more clear than when you're doing the adversary system like ours.
No, so let me cut you short.
Stuart, if you don't stop me, I don't stop talking. So it's okay. You must stop me.
All right. Okay, fine. So let me just say, I'm intrigued by the possibility of what you describe, and I'd like to see some more examples. But I'm going to send you. But I have to say, you can't. This is not going to scale as large as actually running political systems, because just adding security is not something you sprinkle on with a little bit of call in the goddamn cybersecurity expert, let them come in and fix things. I mean, there are certain things that you cannot do with computers or with mathematics, and I will. I'll send you. I'll send you a description of why what you hope to do in the way of scaling this up is likely to be impossible.
The impossible tasks are the only one worth fighting for.
Yeah, and I know all those things, and if you if going very, very back, very, very far back to the beginning of what's now called blockchain technology, my partner Scott and I were in fact trying to prove that the problem we set out to solve, ensuring the integrity of digital records without trusting a single entity, was in fact impossible to solve. And we came up with, we were knocking our heads against the wall, but ended up realizing that in fact it was possible. So you can, so I'll send you a link either while we're talking or soon thereafter, showing that it's harder than you think and harder than has been appreciated by most blockchain enthusiasts.
I agree, and I'm starting from a point that is impossible, like you thought in the beginning. And I know I didn't tell you about it, but I have military past. I was major in the IDF, and I was a combat soldier, and I know all about efforts and impossible missions and how missions came from in the impossible to possible. But I think what we have now is the beginning. We have now a little light that we should nurture. And I think if we do it, we will find the collective will, which is elusive, but is out there, and we have to find it in order to fix our world.
Okay, like I said, I'm very intrigued, but I'm just telling you, the size of the mission you're taking on, maybe. Well, maybe you didn't know. I guess that maybe that's. I'm sure that's not news to you, but but
I'm treated here as a lunatic. I'm treating here as a lunatic. I'm talking about DAOs and blockchain, and they think I'm crazy.
Guys,
can
you hear me?
Yes.
sorry to be the party pooper, just as the excitement is starting to grow, but just to be conscious of the time. I actually have another meeting. I'm already late 6 minutes, and we are 16 minutes past due the conversation.
Right.
But I think we got to a very interesting point. I wasn't sure if he'll manage to get you intrigued, Stuart, so I'm very happy you did. And I think we will have to exchange emails. Obviously, I'll send the recording also to Scott. And I hope we will find a way to incorporate everything and collaborate.
Well,
Let's
yeah.
continue over emails and chat.
Yes.
And,
yeah. So I mean, start with an introduction by an email introduction, but the
yes.
I'll send it again later, or I don't know if recording the Zoom session records the chat, but I put into the chat.
You can save the chat also. I will save the chat. It's okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, guys.
So one of the authors of the article I sent you is Ron Rivest. He's the R of RSA, along with Len Adelman and Adi Shamir of the Weizmann Institute.
Interesting.
I will look into it.
I mean, he's the inventor of public key cryptography, co-inventor of. He's a very, very big deal.
Okay.
Okay. We'll speak. I have, I think, Adi Shamir, also from Machon Weizmann. We can speak with him.
What about Adi?
For Machon Weizmann. My mother used to work in Machon Weizmann, so there's some ways I can get to him.
I can get to him by sending him email. I mean, you know, he'll answer me.
We are both growing up. We were growing up near the Weizmann Institute fence in our homeland city.
Perfect. So let's take it. We have action items. We'll read this document. We'll send you. Gal will send us some information about this dispute resolution using binary questions.
Right.
We'll have an internal discussion with Scott.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. No, I have to talk to Scott about this.